You're listening to The Imposter Entrepreneur with Miss Tiffany Menifee. Let's lay down some ground rules. We're going to talk about business, life, relationships, alcohol, because more than likely we're going to be drinking while we're recording this, because let's be realistic, all entrepreneurs have a vice, and there's probably going to be some cursing going on.
And yet, let's not forget that Miss Tiffany will probably say something highly offensive and not realize it's offensive. So if y'all aren't down with that, stop listening right now.
But if you're chill and not easily offended, then the Imposter Entrepreneur podcast is for you. Remember to follow us on all our social media pages and subscribe to our podcast. Now let's just jump into this week's topic. Well, we are actually officially live now on Facebook. Hey, Facebook people. We've been live on Instagram for a little bit because
you missed out. Sorry.
Yeah, you missed out us talking about how we emasculate people. Well,
Not me.
Sorry.
Not me.
She's the nice one. So we have Maggie on from Salt Honey Bakery. She's a local little cafe. Tell us about. Okay, so I like to do Tinder for business. So tell me, if we were a Tinder site, what would you tell me about your business?
How does Tinder? I stay away from all that stuff because it's so
ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
Like, give me a how would you describe Salt and Honey?
I like long walks on the beach.
Right.
I like reading by the fire.
Right. Like, we like making fresh pastries?
Fresh pastries. So yes, we're all day breakfast and lunch, beer, wine, and coffee. We do make our own fresh pastries.
Who makes the baklava?
The baklava, we have a couple of bakers.
Because your father swears he's the only one that makes the baklava.
He used to be the only one, but then he passed on the reins.
He passed on the reins?
Yes, he got kind of tired of it.
Okay, yeah. Because the last time
I
I saw him, he was like, no, I make the baklava. And I was like,
he
yes,
did. He
sir.
did. It is his recipe still. It's still his recipe.
It's delicious.
Thank you.
So, and how long have y'all been open?
2.5 years now.
It's awesome. So before y'all came on, she was about to reminisce about how she's living her dream.
I am living the dream.
You're living your dream as a business owner?
I am. I had always wanted to open a restaurant since I was about 10 or 11 years old and was very highly discouraged from it, from my family. My family is Lebanese, and they emigrated here in the 70s and, came across oceans of time and space to leave the Civil War and, start a new life. And the restaurant business on my dad's side was the family business, and he's like, why would you do that? Like, we came to the U.S. so you could get an education.
You're like, it runs in my genes,
it runs
Dad.
in the blood. And so
I like to feed people.
I do. And so I did get my degrees. So my undergrad is in political science and my master's political science and journalism. And then my master's is in communication. All from UTEP.
Why do you love, why did you want to have a bakery? Because you like to bake, or you like, because I know my aunt, when I talked to her, she doesn't have a bakery or anything, but she's like, I like to make food and feed it to people because that's how I show my love.
That's
so
exactly
is that how
it is.
you
and
are?
I think, yes, and I think that's how I grew up. Probably my mom's an excellent cook and my father's an excellent cook, but mom doesn't really like cooking, which is sad because you're such a good cook. But my aunts on both sides of my family, they just that's just the thing, just making food and feeding people, and I've always seen it as a way to connect with people. Like when I was in college and we'd have classmates that were maybe foreign students visiting from another country, whatever, and then you could just be like, oh, this is like the Christmas bread that you had in Russia. Let me make it for you. And then they would be so excited because they would be so homesick and somebody was reaching out to them in a way that, and so I've always liked traveling and learning about different cultures and connecting with people. And I think that just food is such a primal way of connecting with people. And it's something that people have very strong memories associated with. And so, yeah, especially when somebody's from somewhere else, you're like, let me make you something from home, something that you miss. And, then.
That's so nice. I sort of feel like I had missed out because, I don't feel like I have a really background in culture. Like you have the Lebanese, and I have friends that are Hispanic, and it's the tamales and this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I grew up in the country, beans and cornbred, I guess.
But that's
I don't know.
Too. Everybody laughs because my favorite place to go, other than my own place, is Cracker Barrel, which is not a local fine dining establishment. But I just love that, and even though it's a chain, it's that sense of country home cooking.
Well, that's why they're like kidneys and gravy, and I'm like, ugh. They're like, what did you have growing up? I'm like, kidneys and green beans, or cornbread and beans. I'm like, nothing delicious that everybody's like.
I mean, but to other people, people that would be maybe this is the
Really,
thing.
you think kidneys and gravy are delicious?
I mean, I don't know about kidneys, but like
No.
but
It's like saying, "Hey, Maggie, you want to grab some gizzards and eat them?"
Not
Right?
for me,
Who
but
really
you don't know
likes
if you-
gizzards out there? And FYI, somebody said yes last week. They were like, "You need a Q&A section." So if y'all have questions, y'all just throw them out there. Oscar is going to tell us if we have questions because I don't
Yes.
have a phone on me or anything like that.
Give us your questions. We'll answer
or
them.
Oscar just ask our own questions for you. But like, I'm like, really, who wants gizzards? Nobody wants gizzards. I mean,
Well, but if it's something that, let's say, your grandma or your mom made when you were sick home from school, and then, I mean, you could still have tender memories associated with them, So
I
here
would
am
like to
standing
know
up
if
for gizzards,
anybody
even
has a
though-
tender memory of eating gizzards with their family
No.
because I have none of those memories.
No, but
So
I mean, yeah, every culture, everybody has some kind of food memory or
it's
association,
nice.
so.
And so, how many employees do you have now? Because we
Oh.
have a lot of business friends that own restaurants and stuff, and I feel like y'all just need to have like your own like AA group for, "Hi, my name's Maggie and I own a restaurant. What are your problems today?"
Yes, I have about 20. It like kind of fluctuates. They don't all obviously work all
Yeah.
the time. And yeah, I mean the restaurants are hard.
They
They're
are.
just
We
really,
were
really
talking
hard.
about earlier that she has 16-year-old daughters.
Yeah, 17. They just turned
17-year-old
Twins,
daughters.
Twin daughters.
And she was like, "Do you have kids?" I was like, "No," because we're talking about karma and kids. And I was like,
real.
"No, I don't have children, but I feel like God spited me anyway." Was like, "Oh, well, let me be a business owner and you can have 13 employees." And see that now it's come back to bite me in the ass because now it's like having 13 children. So
Well-
you have like 20 children and
Yes, and they're not.
and you have like less control over them, I feel like, because they're not actually yours. And like if you smack them,
Yes,
you could
that's sort
get in
of
trouble
illegal.
for that.
Yes, that's sort of illegal. I'm very lucky that we're at a place. We struggled at the beginning with staffing for a lot of reasons, but also part of it is the restaurant business is traditionally a place where a lot of people have a lot of issues, mental issues, substance abuse issues. It's a very hard driving, hard living kind of environment. I think I got lucky in the sense where we don't, we're not open for dinner. We tried dinner for a bit. It didn't really take off. But we also don't serve liquor. Like it's not that kind of establishment. And so I think that the kind of customers we get, the kind of employees that we get, it's not, I mean, I've worked when I was in college and stuff at places where it was just like shots all through the night, like with the wait staff or the kitchen or whatever. And
I feel like I
we're
need
not-
shots through the day sometimes at work.
I just keep it in my desk. No, I'm just kidding. But no, for the most part, we're good like that. We did have some issues at the beginning, but I think that those have smoothed out. So I would say on the whole, my employees, I'm very grateful for them. They are on the younger side, so sometimes it's just more managing feelings and emotions and life issues that everybody calls me mom, so they'll come and
I think
ask
that
me
is every
questions.
business owner. I would like to know because they call me Mama Bear at mine. How many business owners out there get called mom or something like that?
I think especially women, maybe not like men. I can't imagine somebody being like, "Hey, dad." That sounds like a little weird. but
that does sound weird.
daddy, hey, daddy,
Hey,
that's
daddy,
just
hey,
like,
puppy,
ew.
hey,
That sounds
puppy.
like really,
Ew, no.
That's like time for HR right there.
Right.
But and I'm happy to help them however I can and give them advice when I can. But it just can be rough. And then with so many different personalities, managing different personalities. But I think they've all learned to communicate better. And I
How
always,
often do you want to kill them?
not as often now as I did. Sometimes there's times where, and I think that it's in all industry, and it's not necessarily my employees, because I think maybe I've been that employee too, is that when you are an employee, sometimes you don't see like the bigger picture. Like
Yeah.
you're doing your job and you just kind of want to get out of there, and
Yeah.
you're not really
You're
thinking.
just there for the paycheck and to get
so
out.
and I think that mine actually, I would say almost for 100% that they are very invested in the business, that they see it
good.
as kind of a family. And so I don't really think that they're just there for a paycheck, but I think there still is that where like you just want to get out and go home. And like
Yeah.
as a business owner, you're the one that's looking at the
I want to get out and go home too,
One
but that
day.
never happens. I basically live there.
Well, because you do you see like beyond the surface, and you want to make sure.
Well,
everything
yes,
is
you
right,
have
so.
accounting and books and social media and marketing and everything
this
else.
stuff
And you're
that-
like, fuck my life. Like, when do I have a moment for myself?
No, and then I go home, and then it's my second job with my kids. because I'm really grateful that, and I think that it worked out that we're not open for dinner because I get out when they get out from school.
Yeah,
and
that's nice.
But that's when the second shift starts, and then you're like helping with homework and figuring out where to get the homecoming dress tailored. And like I woke up at 5:30 this morning because
and then you have group text messages that go awry. That was us earlier today. She was group texting me about something else, and then we're like texting about, and they're like, "Wait, we're all confused.
wait,
like,
no,
who's
no,
talking
like,
about
oh,
what?
just give me a
Who needs
private
this
message."
location?"
So-
I was like, "I'm just gonna private message everybody because now we're all confused."
Now we're all
I mean, and
confused,
that's what
so-
happens because we're business people and we're doing like 5 million things.
Exactly,
And I
exactly.
voice to text all the time, and I voice
My
to
kids hate that when I do it. My employees hate it too. They're just like,
they're
"Why
like
don't you just-"
they're like what did you say? Like, one, your accent comes through strangely on text message, and you say super random shit, Tiffany, and we don't know what it means. And I'm
That's
like,
so
"Oh,
funny.
my bad." And I'm like, I don't know, like figure it out. And like even Valerie today she's like, it's because I have to read your mind because like you don't
You're
don't
like, "What
say
is she
everything that's in your
saying?
head." And I'm
What
like,
did she say?
I understand, you know.
But going back to the employees, what I wanted to say though really is for us, I am very grateful for the employees, and I try to tell them that all the time because they are the face of the business more than I am. I mean, the customers interact with the servers. They don't interact with me unless, they catch me hiding in my office and then pull me out. But
Do you hide in your office and cry sometimes?
I don't cry in my office, but I do cry
She
at
cries
home in the
shower.
car on the way home, or I cry in the shower in the tub. I'm like,
I cried at the office today, and of course that's why I'm grateful for the overhead lights because they make me look like I have makeup still on, and I actually don't because I cried it all off at like 8:00 this morning, and then I have my office manager like rubbing back like it's okay, and I'm like. I hate my
sometimes
life.
it's not okay.
Yeah, well,
it's not.
sometimes customers are assholes, and we talked about that
Well,
today.
Customers, I have more problems with customers than my employees, and customers are tricky because we are there to serve customers, but sometimes people come in and it's like we're not your slave. We're not your, or people try to do weird shit. Like we had a table, it was last weekend or the weekend before. So on the weekends we get a long waiting list. So sometimes it's more than an hour. And these folks came in and just sort of found friends that had already been sitting there and then tried to take over that table after those people had already cashed out and were leaving. We're like, you can't jump the line.
Yeah.
You have to, I'm sorry, just because you know these people,
Yeah.
you can't just sit there and then,
Yeah.
people who, we get, the majority of people are nice, but sometimes people get, we get the snapping fingers. It's like,
People, we had, like I said, we've had a moment today. I had a moment. I wasn't the best boss today or business owner. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, you ask me a question and I answer, and then you're mad. And then you tell me, I'm like, I gave you the answer and you're mad about the answer. But you're the one that asked the question. And then you're like, I don't like the answer. Well...
it's really
and
difficult.
so it was like a catch-22, and I'm like, dude, I'm trying.
It is really hard when you're trying to, because sometimes we have like legitimate complaints where something, the food didn't come out right, or it's burned, or it's whatever. I mean, mistakes happen. We're human beings. But the difficulty is when you try to take care, like you're genuinely sorry,
and nothing's ever going to make them happy.
And nothing's going to make them happy. Some people come in because they're already having a bad day, and then they just take it out on you. I mean, we're just all human beings, and we try to treat everybody with kindness, but
I know. I think that was my part. Like, okay, dude, you're mad. You're upset for whatever, but then like you start like attacking me personally. Like I am like, of course, and then I'm like, take it. Like, well, I don't care. I don't need your business. I want your business, but I don't need it, especially if you're going to be ugly and attack me personally.
Well, also we've had an instance where a table's really, really rude to server. I mean, that sometimes happens where they're just extraordinarily rude to server, and they work so hard. They're running their asses off to
and
get
you make
your food
nothing. You make like nothing as servers except with tips.
And so this is the other thing. I'm just going to tell you all if you're listening, treat your servers nicely and tip. And if you don't want to tip, at least talk to a manager if you have a problem with the service.
What should be the tip? 20%?
I say 20%. I think some people think that that's generous, but for good service, I think that that's pretty standard right now.
Because that's what I usually tip. Actually, I lie. I am lazy, and usually I will take like the last, like I'll just
one of these people.
I will just round up. So if it's like $18, I just figure it's 20, and I'll take like the 2 and times it by 2.
Well, that's okay because then you're giving more, but it's just, people who, and that's why people fight about things like added gratuity. So if you're at a restaurant and you are 20 people and you all have separate checks, we're still going to, because somebody is taking care of all of that.
Yeah.
For you, and it's just part of the service, and it's only fair to the folks that are taking care of you.
I think people have to remember, like, y'all aren't there to work for free. I'm not there to work for free. I'm not there to like jump through. Like, I will do it as gladly as I can, but just remember, like, I have to pay the bills and I have to pay my employees and well,
I mean,
and I have to pay my mistress. My mistress is the U.S. government.
Oh yes, that's a whole other thing. I'm like,
yes,
here you go, take all my money.
Right? I mean, sales tax and employee tax and regular tax and business. I'm like, ugh.
There's a lot of taxes. That was something
I know. This is like a running theme on Imposter Entrepreneur. I like to talk about my mistress, and that's the U.S. government. And basically, I think every episode I've probably complained about paying taxes. I do not see this situation changing. So just FYI, if you tune in regularly, I'm probably going to complain about taxes. And then I'm like, ooh, I paid that tax off. Like, I'm all good. And they're like, ha, 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 you have a sales tax audit. We're going to take more of your money. You just thought you were over with it. I'm like, ha.
It just all goes out the door. But yeah, so there's always a challenge, but on the whole, it's worth it. And then the times, I mean, again, the majority of the time, it's like customers who are like, this was the best meal that I've had in ages, or thank you for opening a place like this in El Paso. It really filled a void. Or what I really love is when high school friends come through, or people who I haven't seen in forever and like have followed me on Facebook but are coming back to visit family, and they're like, oh my God, we've been following you and you've done such a great thing. And like, it just makes me very, very proud of myself and what I've achieved, and like to do something nice for the community so people feel like,
I have a question.
Yes.
You're going to open another location, right?
Well,
maybe. Sort of.
Maybe. Okay, so we are opening the Express location. So that's at...
What does that mean?
So that's at 311 Montana. It's where El Paso Imports used to be, just down the street from...
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so it's not kind of down the street from St. Clement's.
So is it going to be like just express coffee?
So it's going
pastries?
to be basically, yes, coffee and pastries. So it's inside a workspace, which is the working capital, and that is a co-work space. So if you all are interested, are freelance designers or somebody that just needs a desk.
And FYI, if you are not in El Paso has some freaking amazing things happening here.
Yes,
we got some uber. I'm all talented. We got some uber talented people. I'm like, I still need to look good in the camera. I don't care if I make an idiot of myself. We have some We have some super talented people here, and I think like I was just talking to somebody that just came in from the Dallas area, and he was like, I didn't realize El Paso wasn't in a desert. Like, we're in a desert, but like we're in a higher elevation. Right. He was like, so I had no idea where y'all had a mountain. I'm like, yep, we got a mountain. And he was like, and I had no idea y'all had so many people here. I'm like, yep, we got a lot of people. And they were like, and the people are so nice, and the food is good. Nice. And I'm like, these are all things why I live here in El Paso. But he's like, El Paso has some freaking amazing, talented people that they go out and they're in Washington, D.C. and California. And I'm like, dude, like, we need to keep them here. But it's just amazing.
That is a struggle with El Paso, keeping talent here. But we do have definitely like a huge...
Yeah, El Paso's super cool. So sorry, I got on a tangent.
Yeah,
so you're opening an Express Lane over at
Capital. You can find them at the Working Capital.
So when is it open? I'm like, give me a date, Maggie.
November 21st is supposed to be the grand opening, but they're still sort of under construction, so take that with a grain of salt. But we are going to be a full service coffee bar and then have our pastries there. But we'll also have grab and go items, so like breakfast items, salads, sandwiches. So if you're just in a hurry and on the go and don't have time to visit our actual location, you can just grab a sandwich and go on to your meeting.
And it's not going to be like drive-through. You have to walk in.
No, you have to walk in and get it. Yeah, because we're inside of this space, so we don't have a drive-through.
Well, that's exciting.
So so we're doing that, and everybody's pushing us to open east or west. So we're also looking at that, but I don't know.
You're like, I don't know.
My one baby. I don't know if I want to have multiple other
Right.
babies.
I mean, you have twin children. You
I
don't know if
do,
you
I
need twin
do.
locations.
Yes. Oh, that's an idea. I didn't think of that. And I also do have college to pay for. So
And owning a business is like having an extra child or two.
yes,
Because everybody's like,
it's-
you don't want children. I'm like, no, I own a business. I don't have money for children.
it is very
Or
costly.
time. I have
Costly
time.
with
I
time and
have
money.
time for dogs. I can put the dog in the laundry room and lock
And
the
I do
door
have two
with water.
cats also. So not only do I have 2 human children, I have 2.
And cats
pet
are a little bit of
children.
assholes sometimes.
They are. I had one of them. So I have 2 cats, Charles Xavier and Harry Potter Styles. And Charles Xavier.
This is why we're friends, because you're a dork like me.
Charles Xavier had gingivitis. I had to go to the vet, and then when he came back, his brother did not recognize him, like from the smell or whatever. He
he
just
was
smelled different.
pissed?
He was hissing at him, and it took like 2-3 days for them to get back on track. So I was like, "Love him. He's your brother."
And also, I'm just going to say, to be a business owner, you have to also be slightly crazy.
Slightly, yeah.
Slightly, a lot.
Slightly.
Like, I put my foot in my mouth all the time for ridiculous shit I say for
Oh.
the most part. And then we were talking about social media, about how social media is a bunch of liars. Social media is liars. And that's how this
Liars.
podcast basically came about, because we always talk about how business owners or salespeople are like, oh, how are you doing? I'm like, great. How are you doing? You're all great. And then we're like, fuck my life. I'm crying in the car. I just put makeup on because I cried it all off.
I think it's important to be realistic about things. Woo! I
Ooh,
almost knocked
and
this
then
over. I'm
and we
already
give her a
drunk.
little
I'm
bit of
trying to-
wine and she gets crazy. She gets crazy.
No, to be realistic about things and talk about our successes and our failures kind of equally. But I think also we don't give ourselves sometimes enough credit for what we do.
I think it's
catch
hard
myself-
sometimes.
It's hard. And I think especially as women, I don't know, for me anyway, it's kind of like you don't want to be the person that's like, me. Look at how great I am. Look at how, I don't know. I was maybe
I
raised
think
to be
for
more modest or
I think
have
for me, when
humility.
people say I'm doing great, it's like, fuck, if I'm doing great and I tank it now, then it's going to be like, oh, you were doing great. What the fuck happened? And so I'm like, oh, that's nice. They say I'm doing great, because I don't want you to say I'm doing great and then me bomb it.
Right.
And so it's like, but if you don't say I'm doing great and I bomb it, then it's not a big deal. But so I don't know. I probably need to talk to my psychologist, Danny, about that.
You can't be too superstitious too, though. I mean, if you're doing well, you can just be like, I'm doing well. It's fine to be doing okay, but it's also fine to have your bad days. I mean, we all have our bad days.
I have bad days a lot.
Yeah.
And then when you tell people that, they look at you like, oh, okay, like, like, especially in social media, like everybody wants on social media to be sunshine and rainbows. And we were just talking about that before. Maggie was like, you look so put together on your social media all the time. I'm like, social media lies, Maggie. It lies. I am
Well-
not put together.
Well, I'm lucky in that my social media consists entirely of food pictures, and so I don't really have.
I
think that
believe
you're-
my social media consists of me drinking most of the time.
Well, you do have a lot of those networking events. It
Why-
doesn't mean that you're like
Drinking, networking, it's all fun and the
networking, it's all-
same.
No, but for me, it's my product. Like I, as a person or personality, I'm not as attached, I think, in people's minds to my product as you are to yours.
Yeah.
And
And I'm trying to get away from that. I mean, because I realize that I'm the face of my company. So they always say, well, for expanding or doing more stuff, you have to, sort of remove yourself from the business.
so that you're not as well. But look at Papa John's. You still see Papa John. all
Is
over
that
the-
Papa John or his
I
son?
think it really is. But then the problem is what happens is if there's any kind of backlash because you're controversial for some reason or another, then there's a face, I think.
I'm always
put it-
controversial all the
It's
time.
the drinking. No, I'm just
It
kidding.
could be, or it could be my personality, because they're like, I get a lot of like, don't say that. We have to cut that out. Even Oscar, poor Oscar over here. Yeah. Like we asked, what did we ask you about your wife just a minute ago? Oh, she beat you? And you were like, yes. Right off the bat, there was like no hesitation. And we just asked
say
Oscar, do you have to like cut stuff out for me? And like, no hesitation. Sometimes, yes, we have to cut
So,
Tiffany
well,
out.
Let me ask you that. I will turn the tables now.
Do
Please
it.
Don't forget, that's my previous career was in journalism.
Oh, see, so you have a career in journalism. I have no career in any of this. or asking questions.
I mean, I don't have a career. I wasn't like ever a talk show.
But you like
radio
wrote for us,
personality.
like
Yes,
something. Like I'm not good
did.
at asking questions, but we are going to go into my favorite segment here in a minute. So
Oh dear,
it is.
I'm nervous.
It's
about
my
this.
favorite. Ask me a question. Ask me a question. I got to answer.
Oh, you want me to ask you a question?
Yeah, I
So
thought
my
you were
question-
just going to
yes,
turn
yes,
the
yes.
tables.
Oh,
You
yes,
said
but then you got me all. She's smoke and mirrors. She got me all like,
it's like,
turned
look,
around.
I'm prepping to be a politician.
You're just talking around the question. So why do you think? Is it on purpose that you're inappropriate, or is it like some kind of deep-seated like?
I
mean, do you
think I
it's
have
your
no
true-
filter.
Mhm.
I think I have no filter, and I've always been that way. And I think that's just I never learned. I mean, I have a filter sometimes, and I work on it. But I think that even as my father, even when I was younger, like, and even my niece, my oldest niece is like that, very it's not straightforward, but very literal. So we just tell you what's on our mind. You ask a question, and well, okay, well, I think you're being an ass. Okay, and some people don't appreciate that, and some people
can
do.
imagine.
So just like I had an incident where they're like, "Oh, what's your opinion?" I was like, "Oh, well, maybe it's not the employees, maybe it's the captain man in the ship that's the problem. That gets you kicked out of things. So I don't know. I just think that my father was very anti like bullshit, and so I think I grew up around that, and so I mean I've learned to curb it a lot more since I've been in business, but I think my personality and how I grew up with my family is very like straightforward because we grew up in the country and very like
She's gonna hit you with a
1950s
pitchfork.
Western, like watch the movie, like All the Pretty Horses. That's like, like the style of like mannerisms we grew up in. And so I just think that that's just how I am. And then, people, oh, well, you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't say that. And you're going to hurt these people's feelings. And oh my God, this is just so much work for me. And so
It is difficult, but do you think that there's some value in?
I mean,
because for me, there's a difference between being straight because I don't like drama and I don't like bullshit.
no, and I don't like, and I mean, for the most part, especially in business and stuff, I'll try to curb it. But like, if we're friends or we're business acquaintances, if you ask me my opinion, I'm probably going to give it to you. Now, if I think you're fucking up, am I going to, and you don't ask me, am I going to point out like, hey, Maggie, I think you're fucking up?
Am I fucking up?
No, I know that's just rude, right? Right. I mean, like, but if you ask me my personal opinion, then don't
Right.
be offended when I
Right,
give it to you,
right.
honestly, because I personally think that we do nothing for each other if we're friends or a business acquaintances and we ask for your opinion and then you sugarcoat it, because
Right.
I'm not going to learn anything from that. I may cry if I ask your
I will
opinion,
cry.
and I mean, well, I'm
Guaranteed.
going to cry. This is why I wear fake eyelashes. We've already gone over this, but I'm going to cry if I ask your opinion, but I'm going to learn from it, because if I don't ask your opinion, it means I don't value it. So FYI, so I just think that's just how I am. That's just, I blame my father. Mark Menifee, it is your fault. So, okay. I want to, my favorite
Okay.
segment. It's, if you haven't watched it, it's called High Low Buffalo. I got it off of my nieces. My sister-in-law does it. So it's give me your high. Give me a high. Any high you've had in business that just like, God, this is like why I do it, why I feel good. And then like give me a low in business. And then
Okay.
give me a buffalo, something that's surprising. Because would you just see a buffalo walking down the street? Probably not. So a buffalo is something surprising that's
high.
happened.
Um,
Can you think of a high that's just like, you're like, this is why I do it? I mean, today I don't think I could think of a high because I had a rough day. I cried yesterday and I cried today. So, we
some
had
days
one
are
of those
definitely
days.
harder than others, but honestly, there are times when the dining room is just buzzing on the weekends, and I see like the servers running around, and the kitchen is just like doing its thing, like.
And you're like, yes, this is
and
it.
like the customers are eating and happy, and we have people because we've had people also like who have met in the restaurant and then had their engagement photos taken. Like they
Oh,
met there, it
that's
was their
so
first date, and then they
cute.
had engagement photos taken. We've had, baby showers and wedding showers and graduations, and anytime we have any of those events, it means so much to me that somebody, because when you go out for a special occasion, you want to pick somewhere that you really love, and
Yeah.
and for somebody to choose us as the place that they really love, it's like, that's such a great feeling every time, and that never gets old. When I see, no matter how annoying it is to trip over like those giant gold balloons that say like 21 or like to say congrats or
That's so
whatever.
sweet.
Like that's like it's the best thing ever, and it makes me super happy.
I feel like I don't go for like special occasions. I go when I feel like home, because like for me, if I show up looking like a homeless person, that means
Well, we're your neighborhood spot.
I am that means I'm comfortable with you enough to look homeless. That means like we be cool. So, cause that's usually how I show up to your, I'm like, I'm homeless looking. I got flip flops on and like yoga
We love our
pants.
regulars too.
And
So.
like, I just need some pastries and like some food, and just to take it home and like eat and like not have to think about anything, because I just want to like stare at like nothing and have nobody talk to me, or my cell phone not go off.
We have a lot of regulars too, and that always makes me happy when I see them, and then they, that they come back. Lowe's, I guess it would just kind of be, like I said, when customers make staff cry because they're so rude to them, and you can't really figure out. I mean, I don't think that there's ever a reason to be rude to somebody that is taking care of you in a restaurant, unless your server is like literally throwing stuff at you. But I
think in general in business, things happen, people get upset, but there's no reason to be such an ass or a jackass or hateful or to the point where it's like that. And I know sometimes I've had people say, "Oh, it's because women take things more sensitively." I'm not screw you.
Bullshit. It's just people can be rude. We've had customers who have yelled at servers and said that they shouldn't be doing the jobs that they're doing, or just nasty for no reason. And that's always a low when somebody's really brought down. That they've been working really, really hard, and somebody doesn't appreciate that. I mean, that's really hard.
Do you have a buffalo, something that you were like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe it? Oscar, did we lose it?
Oh, there we are.
Oh, we're back on. Okay. Do you have a buffalo, something that you're surprising that you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this?
I can't believe that I did it.
You can't believe like you jumped in and actually.
Yeah, because I think that, before, it's a long story how I got here, but the short version is I got divorced about 6 years ago now. 7 years ago now. And before that, I was basically, even though I had my degrees and everything, I was basically a stay-at-home mom that was doing freelance writing and editing.
And that is a hard-ass job, just FYI. My sister-in-law is actually in that same position right now. She's a stay-at-home mom, but she does freelance writing and stuff.
And like, people are like, oh, she's just a stay-at-home. Don't ever tell anybody she's just a stay-at-home anything, because
you might get
hard.
stabbed.
You might get stabbed. It's hard. It's sometimes demoralizing. It's very thankless in that, especially when the kids are young. I mean, all you're doing is
Wiping
cleaning up
asses.
Cheerios, and it's I don't want to say horrible because I love my children, but it's just very, very all-consuming with no, kids don't really communicate with you when they're babies, and then with twins, it was just very, very hard. And
I love my sister-in-law. Thank you, Sarah Jane. She's amazing. So
it's
you gave me 3 beautiful nieces, so I try to be thankful to her now that she's a stay-at-home mom.
And then being being a mom is hard no matter what. But then being a mom and then having a job outside of the home is just like, with very young kids. Like for me, it's easier. My kids drive. They're older, so it's easier. But when they're young, it's very, very hard. So I got divorced about 6 years ago, and then all of a sudden I was like needing a job, and
you had this wild hair up your ass that you wanted.
No, I couldn't get a job because I hadn't been working this whole time, even though I was taking care of kids.
Catch-22.
Yeah, so it's very, even though I was working from home, and but I didn't have any skills, so I spent a lot of time
still don't have
crying.
any skills, Maggie.
Well, you got to fake it till you make it.
I fake it all the time.
So I ended up getting a job. I was freelance writing for the El Paso Inc. for What's Up, the entertainment weekly. And then the previous editor left and was like, do you want this job? And I was like,
sure.
Yes. So I did that for 2 years. And while I was there, I just was kind of, a friend bought the building that we're in, a friend of the family, and was just like, you always wanted to open a restaurant. I'm like, all right, I'll do it.
And here we are.
And here we are today. I had worked in restaurants, all through college.
I love those stories. It's like, why do you want to do it? I don't know. I just decided I was going to do it. Those are the best ideas, I think.
Since I was a little kid, I used to take, and I still have them at home. Those old photo albums where you would peel back the sheet?
Uh-huh.
So I'd cut out recipes from magazines. This is pre-Pinterest and then like just stick them in these notebooks.
Oh,
and I was like, one day
you
I'm
still
gonna
have them?
Yep. And I was like, one day I'm going to have a restaurant and I'm going to use these recipes. Now,
Do you
all these
ever use any of those recipes?
I haven't really gone back in a while because, first of all, a lot of them you can still find online now. You can go, but a lot of them it's like a time capsule of very 80s kind of
Ooh,
dishes.
I feel like you should have an 80s night. Like
Yeah,
an 80s themed
night.
food
It's all
night.
pesto with goat cheese and like everything in towers.
For the 80s, I feel like 80s
It
was like
kind of like late 80s, early 90s.
was like meatloaf. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think of
you're
like
from the country.
I am from the country. I can't help these things. I just think of meatloaf and gizzards. Sorry, everybody.
Ew, like meatloaf though. We should do a meatloaf special on the weekend.
Or a vegetarian special.
Oh, that's right, vegetarian special. We do have vegetarian and vegan items, and we are we're changing up the menu a little bit, and there will be another couple vegetarian items, I think.
I love it.
So.
And do you have any buffalo besides the surprising? That was your surprising that you actually did it. You like
that
you like
actually
decided
did
to
it.
actually do it. Anything else that was surprising in business?
I'm trying to think.
Every day is a surprise.
Every
in
day is a
business.
surprise. There is like every day brings something new, and then you have to figure out. I think I don't know if this counts, but I've surprised myself with, I guess, how resilient I am and how, like.
I think true that you just said the word. To be a business owner, you have to be freaking resilient. Because you get knocked down a lot. Like there's a lot of highs and there are a lot of freaking lows.
Did you not get my jumbo lumber reference?
Okay, if your children are watching, you just embarrass them, just so you know.
Down, but I get up again. Do you remember that song, Oscar?
Oscar's looking at
Oscar's
her going,
just
stop,
at me like me,
stop,
like
stop, Maggie. Not happening.
Resilient, and also that you just have to like, stuff goes wrong and you have to figure out how to fix it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Resilient. To be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur, to be a salesperson, you have to be resilient because a lot of shit happens every single day, and you have to make it work. I mean, there's no other way that, or basically having your credit go down the hill and getting a regular job, and none of us
I
really
think about
need
that sometimes. I'm like,
We do.
Marshall's is hiring. I could get a discount.
I'm with you. I'm like, why do I need an 8 to 5 job? I need an 8 to 5 job. So it is. I think that was a good ending point. Resilient. You have to be resilient to be a business owner. So
Yes,
make sure that if y'all haven't followed Salt and Honey on social media, that y'all do. They are fabulous. And if you ever come through El Paso, make sure and check them out. And make sure y'all follow us on social media also and all of our pages. So we will see y'all next week, guys. And I don't even know how we have on next week, but it'll be fun like always. So peace out. Y'all have a good one. Okay, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.